I believe that everybody has a story, and I'm fascinated to hear them. So come with me as we take a walk down Fascination Street. Hey guys, if you like what I'm doing, click the Amazon banner at the top of the homepage on FascinationStreetPod.com and do all of your shopping through Amazon. Once you click on it and it takes you to Amazon, you can bookmark it or add it to your favorites and you won't have to go to my site each time. It helps me keep the show going, and again, thanks for listening. Welcome back, Streetwalkers. This episode is with Paul Cappelli. Paul Cappelli owns and operates an olive oil company in Italy called Villa Cappelli. In this episode, we talk about the steps that led him to become an olive oil magnate. We also talk about some of the work that he did when he lived in America and was an ad executive for a major advertising company. And of course, we talk about his beautifully stunning villa 7 miles from the Adriatic Sea in Terlizzi, Italy. So enjoy, folks. This is a super fun conversation with Paul Cappelli.
Yeah, talk to me, yeah.
Welcome to Fascination Street, Paul Cappelli. How are you doing today, sir?
I'm doing just fine, Steve. Thank you.
You are most welcome. So, Paul, the way I first came across you was I was listening to the Vinnie Tortorich podcast, and I believe that your company is a sponsor or was a sponsor of his show. And so that's how I first found out about you. And then from there, I just kind of reached out because I think that what you're doing is very, very fascinating. So where are you born and where did you grow up, Paul?
I was born in Italy, in the city of Pisa, well known for its Leaning Tower, and lived there until I was just about 7 years old.
Oh, okay. And I think that that tower is leaning a little bit less. Didn't they correct the lean like about an inch or something? Like maybe a year ago?
Yeah. They did some serious work on it. I remember years ago, there was a very funny article. I think it was in the New York Times years ago. I'm probably talking decades ago. When they were trying to straighten out the tower, they had a contest among architects on what would be the best way to stop it from leaning. And one guy had this pretty wild idea of tying steel cables to the top of the tower and basically anchoring them into the nearest foothills. You know, there were hills right outside of Pisa, and anchoring them into the foothills. And he was disqualified because the authorities thought that it would just become the world's longest Italian clothesline.
I think that's really funny about the longest Italian clothesline, but it's only funny if an Italian says it.
Yeah, exactly. You know, it's like only people can make jokes about themselves. They don't like it when other people make jokes about them, I guess.
Correct. So let me just say, and this may be me being an ugly American, but for being born and raised in Italy, you have a perfect English accent or American accent. Like you speak English great. I don't know if that's a compliment or not, but well done.
Thank you. I think most people are shocked when they find out I was born in Italy. Most people think I come from the Bronx or Brooklyn, I think.
Yeah, I was going to say, you sound like a New Yorker.
Which I spent most of my life, well, we'll get to that in a minute, I guess, in New York, but I'm not even a New Yorker.
That is fantastic. Okay, so you live in Pisa for 7 years, and then where'd you go?
My mother moved to the U.S., to Boston. My mother's not from Pisa. My mother's from this small town that we live in now in southern Italy. We were both supposed to move to Boston together, but there's this funny thing that happens in Italy, which is when a woman marries, unlike in the U.S., she does not take her husband's last name. She keeps her maiden name, which we can discuss later. I think it makes a lot of sense. So because her last name was different than my last name, I obviously had my father's last name. My dad died when I was 2 years old, so he did not make the transition with us. But since we had different last names back then, this is going back to the 1960s, I was not allowed to move to the States with her. I wasn't allowed to enter the U.S. until they had definitive proof that I was, in fact, her son, because we had different last names. So I had to wait 3 months here in Italy with my step-grandmother until all the paperwork was finalized and my mother could come over to the States.
Well, I know that it's a huge inconvenience, but kind of makes sense because she could just be absconding with a random child.
Yeah.
A bunch of years ago, I was taking my nephew. I was driving from Texas to Iowa, and I was taking my nephew, and he was, I don't know, like 7 or something like that. And here in the States, it's illegal to take a minor across state lines if it's not your minor.
Right.
And so, I was not taking, like, I was the only person, it was just me and him. And so I actually had his mother write me a letter giving me, sort of permission and I guess custody for the weekend or whatever, so that, if I got pulled over, then I wouldn't go to jail. And fortunately, I did have that letter because I actually got into an accident and the police showed up and they were like, "Who's this kid?" And I'm like, well, things got a little tense there for a minute. So I can understand why they would, they'd make you guys wait. So did she come, and then you came after, or did she also wait 3 months?
No. She went to the U.S. Before me. I forget what month it was. It may have been like April. And I had to wait until May to go over there. And, speaking of letters from parents or whatever, which, it's all well and good, but, when you think about it, it's not very legally binding, is it? Unless it's notarized or a lawyer or something signs it. But since I was a minor, I wasn't quite 7 years old, I was put into the custody of Alitalia Airlines, because I was flying alone as a minor, as a 6-year-old, well, quite almost 7. I was under their custody until I got to Boston.
Wow, that's really cool. Sort of an unaccompanied minor kind of a thing. That's kind of cool.
Yeah, I was, I landed in Boston wearing, as Italian kids did back then, short shorts and sandals. That was pretty unheard of in the 60s in America. I was like a little Dondi or something,
So let's talk about how Italian women don't take the name of their spouse. I think that it makes sense because, I feel like when of course my wife took my last name, but I feel like, especially from the woman's perspective, she might lose a little bit of herself when that happens. So I'm interested to hear why they don't do it in Italy.
Yeah, it's not so much that, although, we can get to that in a second, because I just had something to do with that when my oldest daughter just got married a few weeks ago. But they do it mostly, if you think about it, it makes all the sense in the world for legal, tracing issues, so that, it happens to a lot of us, I guess, right? So if you're best friends with, let's say, a girl in grammar school or even high school, and then you don't see them for 20 years, and you're trying to get, you say to yourself, "Oh, gee, I wonder whatever happened to Susie O'Brien," right? And you go online, you look for her on Facebook, you do all searches for her. You can never find that person again unless you know who it is that she married. There's no way of tracking that person down. So here, for I want to say, like, not ancestral records, but for genealogical records, whatever, the woman keeps her last name, so that exactly, you can trace her entire history and her ancestors' history through the legal records. Whereas in the U.S., you really can't unless you go into the marriage record, which then would say that she married so and so. But it becomes very complicated. Whereas I think in Italy and other countries that don't require the woman to take the husband's name, it's a lot simpler.
That makes, like you said, that makes 100% sense. I'm not sure if it's in Mexico or in Spain, but one of those, like when a child is born,
Yeah.
they give the child both last names.
Yeah, and that's why they have these last names that are, Maria Lucia de Gonzalez Rivera Valencia. But it is all about traceability. The other, let's say, interesting thing about record keeping in Italy is that there's no such thing as a junior.
Really?
Yeah, it's pretty much. I think it's illegal. You can't name your son after yourself.
Oh, so it's not that there isn't a designation as junior. You're just not allowed to name the kid the same name as you.
Exactly. Because again, you would lose track. Because how can Joe Berkeley have a son named Joe Berkeley? I mean, that doesn't make any sense, does it?
Yeah, how could Joe Berkeley be 57 years old when...
And Joe Berkeley is also 14 years old.
Yeah, that doesn't make any sense. I'm confused already.
Exactly. And, the other funny thing is when, now that I'm used to being in Italy, when you see people post on, social media sites, Joe O'Brien and my wife, Susie O'Brien. It's like, wait a minute, did you marry your sister?
Exactly. What a weird setup the Americans are.
Yeah, I mean, it's I guess just customs. But the interesting thing about that, as you said earlier, does a woman lose her sense of identity? Which I guess some do, some don't. It all depends on the person. But I just went to my daughter's wedding in San Diego, right?
Oh, and, San Diego, Italy?
San Diego, Italy. Yes, no, San Diego, California, just across from the Mexican border. When it came time, I walked her down the aisle, and the justice of the peace had told me that she was going to ask me a question. And the question was, as I approached the, let's call it altar, said, who is giving away this woman, Nicole Cappelli? And I was supposed to say, I am. And I said, I am not. And she was shocked. I said, what are you talking about? I said, well, she's not mine to give away. She's not my possession. I'm not giving away my daughter. It's like, I will entrust her into Matthew's hands, and he better take care of her. But she's not mine to give away. She's not my property.
Wow, times have changed. Didn't we used to trade daughters for goats and stuff like that?
Yeah, exactly. I was going to say to her, I'll give her away if you give me 14 goats and 5 sheep.
Yeah, where's my dowry, dang it?
Exactly. Which I think they've also taken those words out of the marriage vows, I think, right? To obey the husband.
I think it depends on the religious ceremony.
Yeah.
But it was in my wedding ceremony, and that was, 17 years ago or whatever.
Right.
But as far as a woman losing her identity, I mean, depending on when the woman gets married, like, I don't know how old your daughter is, but let's just say, she's had the last name of Cappelli for, 27 years.
Yeah.
For 27 years, everything that she's done has been under that name,
Right.
Her profession is under that name, her, all of her friends and everything is under that name. And then, like you said, when they change it, yeah, I guess people who need to know can find her, but it just seems like kind of a giant pain in the butt as far as, like I said, her career and her, 27 years is a long time to be under one identity, and then to completely change it. I do, participate in that, but I think it's so weird that we do it.
Yeah. And the reverse is also true. I'm divorced now for about 20 years. And I always find it kind of strange that my ex-wife still has my last name.
Yeah, that would seem weird. But I guess, it's not like you could take it back, Yeah,
but I don't know if you can do it. I don't know if you have to do it legally. I don't know if you have to go through, like, the courts or something. I don't know how that works in the States.
Well, the way it works in the States is when you get a divorce, you can change your name to anything you want.
Oh.
Or not.
That's nice of them.
Yes, that is nice of them. So they do it so that the woman can change her name back to her maiden name if she wants to. But the way the laws are, both parties can change their name to anything. Like, they can change their first name. It's very bizarre. And not very many people do it, but it is there.
Because here in Italy, I had a hard time because I moved here permanently 6.5 years ago. And I've always been known for my entire life, except for the first 7 years, as Paul. But I was born Paolo. I was born in Italy. And in the U.S., when you come over, you can change your first name very easily. They just do a translation of your first name. So when I became an American citizen, I automatically became Paul Cappelli as opposed to Paolo Cappelli. But then when I moved back here and I applied for my Italian citizenship, I had to be Paolo again because my birth certificate, because they want to see your birth certificate, right? Naturally. Sure. So my birth certificate says Paolo. So they said, no, you can't be Paul. You're Paolo. Okay, I'm Paolo again.
So I think it's weird that weren't you born in Italy? So why did you have to apply for citizenship?
That's another weird thing. They've changed the law recently, but if you became a naturalized citizen of another country, let's say, the U.S., like I did, they assume that you denounced your Italian citizenship.
Wow.
Where in actuality, you don't. I don't remember anything in the papers or anything that I said when I applied for American citizenship that said, I denounce all other nations or anything like that. It's just, I agreed to become an American citizen, uphold the laws of America and the flag and all that good stuff.
And the taxes.
And the taxes, exactly. Those never go away. But so they automatically assume that you renounced your Italian citizenship. So the good thing is that if you move back to Italy after a year of residence in Italy, you can automatically get your Italian citizenship back. But the other weird thing is that people who have never even set foot on Italian soil, and I think other countries like Ireland and Germany and stuff, they are eligible for citizenship in those, let's call them foreign countries, if you have a grandparent or even great-grandparent who was a citizen of that country. So me, who was born here, didn't have the right to automatically claim Italian citizenship. And the other thing is that my children can't get Italian citizenship because they were born when I was an American citizen. Because back then there was no dual citizenship. Now there's dual citizenship, so it's a little bit different.
Interesting. Okay, so let's talk about your time in America. So you got here when you were 7.
Right.
And what brought your mom here? Was it for work?
My grandfather had been going back and forth to America from Italy since like 1913, 1914. And, back then, the turn of the last century, a lot of Southern Europeans immigrated to America because there was, severe poverty in Southern Europe. So they went there for work. So a lot of her relatives also, my mom's relatives, had moved to America, or my grandmother's and grandfather's relatives had moved to America, and they established roots there. So then the rest of my mother's family also moved to America, the last one being in 1959, I believe, my grandmother. And so my mother was the only one that was left here in Italy. And they convinced her to move to America. It was the old thing of the streets are paved with gold, the land of opportunity, and all that good stuff. And so they convinced her to move to the States.
Huh. Very cool. So when you got here, like I said, you're 7. How long were you here?
What do you mean? How long was I there?
How long did you stay in America?
Oh, for 50 years.
50 years. All right, cool. Yes. So let's say you went to school here, right?
Uh-huh. Yeah.
What did you do as a career here?
I was in advertising.
And what exactly does that mean? You were a madman?
Yeah. The real madmen of the TV show were roughly a decade before me. But yeah, I mean, most people still today consider me one of the madmen, maybe not the original, but a descendant of the original madmen.
Can you remember any of the campaigns that you worked on? Anything that, the rest of us might be familiar with?
Probably. Let's see. Well, I won my first Clio award, which was back then the biggest award in advertising, sort of like the Oscars of advertising, when I was, I believe, 29 years old. For General Electric, I did a big TV commercial for General Electric back in the day when it was still GE, we bring good things to life.
Yeah.
And then I went on, the next, I guess, big one was, I don't know if anyone remembers Max Headroom for Coca-Cola.
Oh my God, I loved Max Headroom.
Well, that was my creation.
Really?
Yes.
Holy moly.
Yeah.
Catch the wave.
That's right. I wrote that line as well.
Oh my gosh, this is amazing. I had no idea. I'm sweating now. I'm blushing. I'm so excited. Oh my gosh, you're amazing.
Yes, I did Catch the Wave, Max Headroom, some famous Christmas commercial with Art Carney and the kid from Family Ties, Brian Bonsall.
Yeah, Brian Bonsall.
Right, took place at Rockefeller Center. I then went on to do, I started my own agency, and I launched, I did the first ever TV commercial for Godaddy, which was on the Super Bowl.
So, was it all sexy?
Yes, it was pretty much, it was supposed to run twice during the Super Bowl. They had never done a TV commercial before, and it was a girl with big breasts, because it was the year after the Janet Jackson wardrobe malfunction.
Yeah.
But if you look at the commercial, her name in the commercial is my oldest daughter's name, Nikki Cappelli, where her bra strap flies off. And it was supposed to run twice during the Super Bowl, but it got censored the second time and all hell broke loose.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, it was a pretty big commercial back then. It was, like I said, on the Super Bowl. I then launched JetBlue, the airline.
Wow.
Which you've probably heard of.
Sure.
Zappos.com.
Golly, you got your fingers in lots of pies, man. That's amazing.
Yeah, no, I think I did some pretty good work in my heyday.
I would say so. So you said that the Max Headroom thing was your first Clio. How many did you?
Yeah, no. GE was my first.
Oh, no,
Clio.
Sorry. You're right.
Yeah,
GE.
Max Headroom was my first big spot for Coca-Cola.
My apologies. You are correct. You did say that. How many Clios did you win?
I think 3 in all Clios, and then a lot of other different awards, award shows.
Where do you have them all?
I actually I left them in New York. I think my kids have them. When I moved here, I decided I really didn't want all these trophies. I must have had, 50, 60 trophies in my office.
That's very European of you to not be like, just make a whole room in your house dedicated to your achievements.
My trophy room, right?
I totally would do that.
Yeah. I did it for a while, but after a while, it's like, really, I'm moving on in my life. Do I really need this stuff?
That makes sense. Well, this is pretty gauche, but you wouldn't happen to have any Max Headroom awards laying around that you don't want, would you?
my kids probably have them. I don't have any.
Okay, so you did that for quite a while. What made you decide to start your own firm?
It's, I guess, what's the old expression? Necessity is the mother of all invention, right?
Uh-huh.
I left the big agency I was working with, which was McCann Erickson. It's a
no way.
Yeah.
Wait, McCann Erickson is one of the firms in Mad Men.
Yeah, of course, yeah. And actually, and the Mad Men series ended with the Coca-Cola commercial, right? Hilltop.
Correct.
I like to teach the world to sing. I did 20 years after the original Hilltop, or I like to teach the world to sing. I did a big commercial that was on the Super Bowl again, which reunited all the original people from the original Hilltop commercial, I like to teach the world to sing, with their children on top of the same hilltop. We filmed it in Rome. And that was the reunion of I like to teach the world to sing.
I remember that 20-year anniversary version of the commercial. I barely remember the original version because, I was quite young at that time, but I clearly remember the 20-year later version.
Right.
Well done.
Thank you. So I left McCann Erickson because I was young and they wouldn't give me the top job, the executive creative director of the whole place. So, I decided to leave. I got this, what I thought was a great job offer at a smaller agency, a division of Saatchi and Saatchi, and another big multinational. And I lasted there, I think, 3 months maybe. Just didn't work out. So, I had an ironclad contract, luckily, and with one of my former clients from Coca-Cola, I decided to open up a brand new kind of advertising agency, which we called the Ad Store, which was pretty much you could walk in and get advertising done from top-notch people. That was back in 1993. It was just a different kind of agency. But I got fired, and I had to do something.
Yeah, that would do it. I used to be in banking for a while, and in 2008, I got laid off from 3 different banks. And so I just decided to start my own business. So I'm right there with you. Necessity is the mother of invention.
Yeah.
Okay, so you did that for a while, and I would assume you sold your business?
No, I didn't really sell it. I kind of shut down what happened was, because of the way because of the form or the format of the agency that I founded in 93, we started licensing the concept to other agencies in other parts of the world. So Ad Store started becoming this international network of advertising agencies, which still exists today. I think we have 14 offices around the world. But I wasn't really that interested anymore, so I gave the majority ownership to my Italian office, and they're still running it, and I have a minority stake in it.
Oh, cool. So, at some point, you decide to move back to Italy. Are you living in Terlizzi?
Yes, Terlizzi.
Terlizzi. Yes. So 2 Z's together is like a TZ sound?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Like pizza. Okay, sure.
Yes, right.
So how come when you say the city that you were born in, you say Pisa? Is there just 1 Z?
No, there's no Z in Pisa.
Oh, there's an S. Oh,
yes,
man.
Exactly.
What a fool.
Yeah. That's okay. It's okay.
I just showed my foolishness. My apologies.
Yeah, it's okay.
So what made you move back to Italy?
I guess it's now been 16. Well, actually, in 2001, on the fateful morning of September 11, I'm sitting in my apartment in Manhattan, looking south towards what used to be the World Trade Center. And as we all know, all hell broke loose. And, I could see the smoke. I was watching what was going on the Today Show, when the things began to unfold in a very scary way. And after about an hour or so, or a couple hours, I got a phone call, because landlines were working that day. Cell phones were not, but landlines were working. And my phone rang in my apartment, because I hadn't gone to the office, because I spoke to a couple of people that were in the office. They got there early, and of course they said, do not come in. We're stuck here. We would like to get out, but it was a horrible day, as we all know. My phone rang, and it was one of my cousins from this town here in Terlizzi, which is in southern Italy on the Adriatic, near the bigger city is Bari. And she was calling just to see how I was doing, to make sure I was okay, because they were watching the news in Italy as well. And because of that, I decided that when the dust settled, both literally and figuratively, I decided that I would take my kids to visit their grandmother's hometown the following year. And that's what I did. So we came down here and we took a ride around. I went to visit some of my grandfather's properties that my mother still owned. And we stumbled upon this big, beautiful, almost totally destroyed ruin of a giant villa on the Appian Way, the Roman highway. And I found out it was for sale, and I bought it.
Hey, streetwalkers. Well, you're not literally streetwalkers, but now that I've got your attention, I am Stephen O'Reilly, and I have a podcast called The Bar Star Podcast. And since you're listening to the Fascination Street podcast, I think you should check out my show. it's just as interesting without all the famous people, because Steve has connections that I just do not have. But if you dig podcasts about music, working musicians, and other random shit that I decided to talk about, based around music, of course, because that's what I do. I'm a working musician for the past 30 years. Then you need to check out the Bar Star Podcast. You can get it wherever you get your podcast, on any platform, and make sure you check out barstarpodcast.com. Now back to the one and only Steve Owens and whatever the hell he was talking about.
The place that you're talking about is called Via Cappelli and
Villa, not Via like the Mexicans call it.
Oh man, I am just the worst.
No, it's all right. It's all right.
So Villa Cappelli, and it's an 11-bedroom, 9-bath historic home. Is that right?
Yeah, I think it's more like 14 baths, but yeah, that's fine.
Sorry, I got that off the internet, man.
Yeah. Well, we're always renovating and putting more, doing more stuff, so everything just keeps growing.
So you've done a lot of work to that property to bring it up to what looks like on the internet, like just a masterfully, beautifully built home. Like,
Thank you.
What was the inspiration? Well, you're welcome. It's gorgeous. What was the inspiration to fix it up and turn it into what it is now?
Some of it has to do with, a lot of people say to me, oh, wow, you're really living the dream. And my response, maybe in a snotty way, is, no, I'm living your dream. I think a lot. I think a lot of people have a dream or a fantasy of, wouldn't it be great to own a villa in Italy or in the south of France or whatever it is. Fortunately enough, I was lucky enough to make that dream come true. So I walked onto the property with my 3 kids. It was spectacular, even as a ruin. It had no windows, no doors. It was just a total mess. Hypodermic needles in the courtyard.
Wait a minute, it was in America? Only we have junkies.
Yeah, you wish, right? I guess being an advertising jerk, the first thing I thought of was, well, I could turn this into a brand. Olive oil, Southern Italian products like sun-dried tomatoes and all that stuff that I grew up with. And I grew up in Boston. I figured, not only could we make this into a really cool house, but we could also start selling stuff from it. And that's what we started doing little by little. Wow.
So how does one get into the olive oil business if you're not in the mafia? Wait, are you in the mafia?
As my mother always told me, those who are never say they are.
Aha. Moving on.
Those who aren't say they are. No, I'm not in the mafia. I think it's like anything else. Yes, there is a lot of, let's call it corruption. I don't know if it's actual mafia. I think there's probably more mafia in the tomato business, the tomato sauce business, than there is in the olive oil. There's a lot of corruption in both. But I think, a lot of it is when you're smaller, especially, it's very easy to stay under the radar. No one's really going to bother you. If I'm selling, 100 liters of olive oil a year, nobody really cares, do they? So
yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, we sell a lot more than that now, a lot more. But we still, I guess, are under the radar. No one is, except for one company, Cappelli, a big olive oil company. They recently blocked us from trademarking Villa Cappelli for the olive oil because they said it was too close to Cappelli.
Interesting.
And quite silly, actually.
Well, that just means they're scared.
Yeah, no, I think they just have nothing better to do, and they have a lot of people that a lot of lawyers they can pay money to. But I didn't know anything about the olive oil business, at all. And the first year, I think we made 50 liters of olive oil from our trees and gave most of it away, sold a few bottles. And then we decided, we should do it again. And then we made maybe 150. And hey, this turned out to be fun. We weren't making any money for the first 6 or 7 years. We were probably losing money, definitely losing money. And then, finally we got over the threshold and, It's become a very good business for us right now.
Very cool. And so are you the one running that?
Myself and my partner, my husband. Actually, we just got married in September. We've been together for 22 years, and finally Italy also passed the law that we could have well, you can't get married, you can't have same-sex marriage in Italy, but you can have civil unions, and that was good enough.
Oh, good.
So
What's
it's
his
the two of
name?
it. Stephen Crutchfield, good Texas boy
Oh, wait, from Kennedy, Texas?
from Kennedy, Texas.
How do I know that?
I have no idea.
I'm awesome. That's
I-
how.
You're fascinating.
You're fascinating. And so is Steven.
Yeah, Stephen's a good guy.
So, did you say that you grow your own olives?
Yes. Well, we just bought another big olive grove, so we're well over 1,000 olive trees.
Whoa. And how much oil does 1,000 olive trees produce?
1,000 olive trees should produce roughly 3,000 liters of olive oil, of extra virgin olive oil.
Whoa. Okay, explain the different pressings, if you wouldn't mind.
No, it's a lot of it is what turns out to be marketing mumbo jumbo. Quite honestly,
Sure.
A lot of the stuff about first press, cold press, all the stuff. It's really more marketing mumbo jumbo than anything else. Obviously, to be extra virgin, it has to be first press, because anything else that comes out of there has to be sort of chemically modified to extract oil from whatever's left from the first pressing. So extra virgin olive oil is basically just freshly squeezed olive juice. So, you pick your olives, you bring them to the mill. Within 24, no more than 48 hours, you put them into the mill itself, the grinder. After an hour and a half, out the other end comes pure extra virgin olive oil. What a lot of people...
It's that simple?
It's that simple, yeah. Yeah, it really is. What a lot of people don't realize, I didn't either until we started doing it, is that the pits are also crushed.
Yeah, I was going to ask about that. So those get crushed too, huh?
Yeah, they're in your olive oil.
Now, do they get crushed because it's just easier and it doesn't matter, or is there also oil in the pit?
There's also oil in the pit and other, I guess, good stuff. Just like if you think about it, an almond is really a pit.
I guess I never thought about that.
Yeah, and that's why when you graft trees, you can graft trees that have the same pit. So I can take in what we do, what a lot of people do here, sometimes just for shits and giggles. They'll have an almond tree trunk that they'll graft a plum branch onto it, and an apricot branch and a peach branch, because all of those fruit have the same pit.
And so does that final product tree, does it produce all of those different?
Yeah. You'll have a tree with four different kinds of fruit on it. Yeah, it's pretty funny, actually.
That sounds amazing.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. Yeah, and I think farmers just sometimes do it because they're just bored.
Sure. That sounds like a really cool tree to have if you live in the city.
Yeah, exactly.
And you don't have a lot of room or whatever. One tree with a few different fruits. Oh, that's amazing.
So extra virgin olive oil is really based primarily on the acidity level of the olives. So the less ripe the olive itself, the lower the acidity. As a fruit, because olive, also that's another thing. I think most people would think, oh, it's olive oil, it's a vegetable. Well, no, it's a fruit. So olive oil is really a fruit juice, not a vegetable.
Fruit juice.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, like most fruit, the riper the fruit becomes, the higher the acidity level becomes. So it becomes sweeter, but it's really not as good for you. So an olive should be picked when it's half ripe and half unripe. And that keeps the acidity level down. And that's why you also can't let them sit for more than 48 hours after they've been picked, because it'll start to actually literally cook. and turn rancid, as they pile on top of each other. They heat up. So you take your olives to the mill. You let them sit there for no more than 48 hours, hopefully no more than 24 hours. You put them in the mill, big granite wheels that weigh, I don't know, hundreds of tons, crush them into this pulp. It goes through the machine. Extra virgin olive oil comes out the other end. So when you buy a bottle of olive oil that just says olive oil on it, not extra virgin olive oil, you're getting something that's completely different. It has nothing to do with extra virgin olive oil. It's like night and day, because what that is, that's an extraction of, first of all, it's not first press, because what they do is they take all the stuff that's left over from that first pressing, and it's this sort of hard nuggets that comes out the other end, which is called sansa or pumice. They use a type of hexene to extract any little residual oil that's in those nuggets. It comes out as a black tar, and then they have to use other chemicals to dilute it and clean it, and then they add fragrance to it, they add color to it, and that's what you're buying when you're buying just plain old olive oil. So in other words, stay the hell away from that stuff.
That sounds not only disgusting, but it sounds wildly impractical.
Yeah, well, it's not impractical, because what most of these big companies do is, there's all these Italian laws that, because of lobbyists, just like we have in the States and anywhere else in the world, right? You have big companies that have the money to lobby politicians. A bottle of extra virgin olive oil, an industrial extra virgin olive oil, only has to have like 10 or 15% actual extra virgin olive oil in it. The rest of it is crap. That's why it doesn't cost anything. You buy a bottle of extra virgin olive oil for $5, $10, which is it's an impossibility to produce a full bottle of extra virgin olive oil for that kind of money. It's impossible. So the people who make this lower grade, what they call olive oil, they're making a boatload of money because it doesn't cost them anything to produce it. Nobody wants it.
Wow. That's nuts. So what happens? Okay, so I'm going to go on a wild assumption here and say that you and your company only produce extra virgin olive oil and you leave those nuggets for somebody else.
Yes, so we leave those nuggets for somebody else. You leave them at the mill. The mill then sells those nuggets, they're hard little granules. They sell them to other people, either to make this other olive oil product that they call olive oil, or they sell it to other companies to either make fertilizer with it, or to other companies who make heating pellets. Those pellet stoves that have become popular. I don't know if they're popular in the States.
I'm unfamiliar with these.
Yeah, they're pretty popular here in Europe. They're pellet stoves. They looks like almost like rabbit feed. Those little pellets that you give to animals. Because these pellets are made from olive residue, there's still some oil in there, so they burn hotter and slower than regular wood.
Oh, so they burn for a long time.
Yes, and a much hotter heat, I guess.
A higher temperature. Very cool.
Yeah.
What other kinds of products does your company sell?
Well, we sell vinegar from the wine that we make here at the villa.
Oh my gosh, you make wine too?
Yeah, of course.
All right. I'm going to press pause and then pack all my stuff and move into your house. Good
Come on
Lord.
over.
That sounds amazing. So it's gorgeous.
Yeah.
It's 7 miles from the Adriatic Sea?
That's right. Yeah.
You have olive groves, and I guess you have grapevines somewhere?
Well, we have a couple of small vineyards, but we make a lot more wine now. So we buy the grapes, bring the grapes here, and one year we actually did the Lucille Ball thing. We jumped into the vats with bare feet and stomped the grapes. It was a lot of fun, actually.
Yeah, I bet it was a lot of fun. What made you decide to make wine? Just because when in Rome?
Exactly. It's like, why'd you do it? Because we can. Yeah, but it's the same thing even with wine. I mean, there were a lot of great wines out there, obviously, and we don't sell the wine outside of the villa. We just have it here for people who come visit and things like that. But what most people say when they drink our wine is that you can actually feel, you can taste the cleanliness of it because there were no additives. There's a tiny bit of sulfite. You have to put a little bit of sulfite in just to keep it from going sour. But we age it in oak barrels, and you can drink 2 bottles of our wine. You'll feel very good, but you will never wake up with a headache because it's just very clean.
So it's literally a house wine in every meaning of that phrase. It's your house wine. You grow it, you make it, and it's only available at your house.
Right. And one year my farmer decided not to make the wine for me, and I had to go looking for some homemade wine because I didn't want to buy what we call commercial or industrial wine. But most of the homemade wine was just crap. It was just god awful because people who are afraid that it's going to turn sour or who don't have the appropriate cellars. Our wine cellar is the earliest date that we found on the wine cellar is 1799. So it keeps the wine really, really fresh. But if you don't have that capacity, that possibility, people just load it with sulfites, which, you open the bottle of wine, it smells like rotten eggs. It's sulfur and it's disgusting.
Wow, that sounds delicious.
Yeah, really good, huh? You can have it for breakfast with the bacon.
Oh, gross. I think I read somewhere that you guys found like a Knights Templar cross or something on the property.
Yeah, on one of the buildings, we had to take down the front wall of the building. It's all stone. All the buildings here are just solid stone. We had to take down one of the walls because it was crumbling. So we had to rebuild the wall. And when we took it down, one of those stones that we thought was just a stone was actually a cross, a very particular cross that is a cross of the Knights Templar. And we also have what they call an hypogeum here, a cave under the garden that the government archaeological branch came and took all the measurements. We have this cave under the garden that dates back to the Bronze Age, so it's from 2,000 years before Christ.
Whoa, was there anything in there?
Yeah, there's a big slab of stone that we're not sure if it was the top of a sarcophagus or if it was some kind of an altar, because it seems that the cave was originally used as a fertility site.
Ow!
Yeah, it was carved out by hand without using metal implements, just I guess rocks and wood carved out in the shape of a rather large penis.
It's good to know that the human race had a fascination with penises long, long ago.
Long time ago, yes.
That is so funny. And you do not have to answer this if it's too personal, but I have to ask. Mm-hmm. Have you guys christened that room?
No, we have not. I don't know if others have.
I'm sure they have at least 2,000 years ago.
Yeah. And the other interesting thing about it is that the archaeological branch of the government told us that it's the only one on mainland Italy that they have ever seen. They've seen some others on the island of Sardinia. And normally when they did these fertility sites, it would be the male emblem, the male figure, the penis, pointing to the female counterpart. And sure enough, this cave, the head of it points to the cistern or the well that is in front of it. So it's the male going towards the female.
Get right on out of town. That's crazy.
Yeah. It's pretty crazy.
That's fascinating. So when people stay, because Villa Cappelli is like you can rent rooms and stay there, right?
Yeah, in the off season, meaning late fall through early spring, we do sort of bed and breakfast. During the season, the high season, it's mostly people who come with, their entire family or groups of friends who rent out the entire villa for at least 1 week. And so you have sort of a boutique private hotel that's all yours for at least 1 week. We have a giant pool, there's a bar. As you said, 11 bedrooms, a lot of different spaces, beautiful medieval garden. The shape of it, the design of this medieval garden was actually brought here by the Crusaders from North Africa when they came back. Yeah, it's all. If you like history and the road, the street that we're on, the Appian Way, this is Trajan's Appian Way, Emperor Trajan. So this road was rebuilt by the Romans in 118 A.D.
Whoa.
Yeah, it's kind of old.
Kind of. Do you have postcards of this beautiful property?
No, we don't have postcards yet. We're always too busy to do that kind of stuff.
Oh, buddy. Click and print. Come on, man.
I know, right? It's 2019,
I mean, come on, dude.
I can send them to China, have them back here in 3 days.
Yeah, Vistaprint will send it right to you.
Right.
So when people stay there, are they allowed to go into that cave, or is that off limits?
Yeah, no. They have to be accompanied because it's kind of dangerous. The stairs are rather steep, and we haven't had a chance yet to put in rails along the stairs. But we're going to turn it into a wine tasting room.
Oh my goodness, that sounds amazing.
Yeah, candle lit and all that good stuff.
You're really getting me excited here, Paul. Wow. Okay, so I found somewhere that you have a podcast. Is that right?
Yes, we do have a podcast. Yes,
tell us about it.
Well, it's called Living Villa Cappelli. It's basically about daily life here in a villa in Italy, and we talk about things that because we're both. Well, Stephen is 100% American. I'm
Texan.
Pretty close. Yeah, exactly. He's not really American. He's Texan. And I lived in America for 50 years. I think and sound like an American. So all the things that we find that are kind of weird and different about Italians and Italian life, that are different from American life, an American way of thinking, to recipes and cool places to visit, places that we've been to. It's just like a day in the life. Most people find it pretty interesting. Stephen, not as much as me. Stephen doesn't curse. He's from Texas. But, I drop the F-bomb with great regularity. He has his vodka on the rocks. I have my Manhattan while we talk on this podcast. It's fun. It's a lot of fun.
That sounds really cool.
And we just got word that for anyone listening, that I believe very shortly, maybe in the next couple of weeks, I'm going to be on CBS Sunday Morning, right? That show.
No kidding.
Yeah. Talking about olives and olive oil and stuff.
So have they already shot that segment?
Yeah. It was shot probably at least 6 months ago. And I guess we just got an email a few days ago saying that they're editing it and it's going to go on the air.
Oh, very cool. That's very exciting.
Yeah.
I will. Well, I mean, I don't know if this is going to come out before that does,
right,
but
right.
I'll definitely point people in that direction. I'm very excited. Very cool.
It seems like a lot of people really love that show. It's I guess it's a nice break from hearing bad news all the time.
Yes, and it is a welcome break.
Yeah.
I mean, they have really cool stories. So that program, it's a nice break from all of the ridiculousness that we're inundated with in our news cycle.
Yeah, I used to watch it a bit when I was living in the States.
Okay, well, Paul, as we're winding up, can you tell everybody where they can find you on social media?
Oh, sure. We're on Facebook as Villa Cappelli, VILLA CAPPELLI. We have a podcast called Living Villa Cappelli, which I guess you can find on iTunes. You can also find us on Instagram. And if anyone is looking to rent the villa, you can find us on either homeaway.com or vrbo.com.
The vacation rental by owner, correct?
Exactly, yes.
All right. Man, that sounds awesome. I can't imagine that I'm going to be in Terlizzi anytime soon, but man, when I am going to knock on that door.
Yes, good. Knock on either the front door or the door that leads you right to the bar.
Oh, yeah. Hell yeah.
We also make our own limoncello. But
Get the hell out of here.
I'm serious.
Oh, my gosh. No wonder you don't have time to make postcards. You're
Exactly.
busy making real stuff.
I'm busy making liquor.
That is fantastic. Right up my alley.
Mm.
So, Paul, before I let you go, is there anything that we didn't talk about or I didn't ask you about that you wanted to talk about?
No, I think we've pretty much covered it. I mean, most people, unfortunately, confuse us with Tuscany. People, when you think Italy, you think Tuscany. A lot of our friends say, oh, my friends Stephen and Paul have a beautiful villa in Tuscany. It's not. We're in Puglia, which is the heel of the boot on the Adriatic.
How do you spell Puglia?
Like Puglia, Puglia. It's the fastest growing region in Italy in terms of tourism. It's much more authentic Italy. Now that Tuscany has become sort of overrun by tourists, Venice, I think they've banned cruise ships from going into Venice finally. So, down here, it's like the real deal. It's like Italy, the way Italy was 50, 100 years ago. If you like rustic, very hearty, good food and wine, this is the place to be.
Oh, okay. That sounds awesome. Let me ask you this, and I'll leave this out if you want me to, but what do the Italian citizens think about Giada? No, no, Giada.
Oh,
Giada De Laurenta.
I don't think any of them know who she is.
That is awesome.
Do you know who they like much more? And he's on TV here all the time.
Please tell me it's Mario Batali.
No, he's non-existent either. Unfortunately, the one that is unfortunate that's on here, who I can't stand, I'm sorry, is Joe Bastianich.
I'm unfamiliar with that person.
He's Lydia Bastianich's son, Italy and all these other.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
No, but the one that loves Italy and Italians love him is Jamie Oliver.
Now, I just heard. This blew me away. I think it was either yesterday or the day before. I heard that Jamie Oliver is worth over $400 million. And for a while, he had a little bit of a footprint here in the States, but like the fact that he was worth that much just blew me away because he wasn't that impactful, when he was on TV and doing things around here.
Well, he started to get really big, and then I don't know if he shot himself in the foot. Yeah, I applaud him for what he did, but I think corporate America didn't like it when he started going after like McDonald's and high school lunches and stuff like that.
School lunches and stuff like that. Yeah, that was a really big deal here. Yeah. I think he got hooked up with Mr. and Mrs. Obama, and I think he was sort of heading their nutritional standard kind of a thing. Yeah. But it blew me away that he's worth that much money, or allegedly, or whatever. So did you say that? Yeah, you never know. Did you say that he's pretty big over there?
Yeah, he's pretty big here. We watch him regularly we don't have a TV. My mom lives with us, so we have a TV for her because she's obviously older and a TV is like their companion. So at night, Stephen and I go in there. Stephen has his vodka on the rocks. I have. In the winter, my Manhattan on the rocks. In the summer, my martini. We go in and watch TV with her for a couple hours, and it's all about cooking shows, pretty much. It's all we watch.
Very cool.
Yeah.
When you have your martinis, are they dirty?
No, I don't like dirty martinis. Stephen used to drink dirty martinis, but I've convinced him to make it a little more pure.
Nice. Any particular brand of vodka?
We buy this cheap vodka here. That's another important thing for people to understand, that when they come to Italy and you get sucked in by duty free and you figure, I'm going to buy a bottle of vodka just in case, wherever I go, I can't find a bottle of vodka. Don't do it, because good Polish vodka here costs $7 a bottle.
Really?
Yeah. All the liquor is really cheap. So we buy this brand called Romanoff. Yeah, I mean, I prefer Grey Goose, obviously, but, in Italy, a bottle of Grey Goose will set you back about $50. Probably in the States by now, too.
Yeah, it's pretty expensive.
Yeah, but here, good Polish vodka. The label is a direct ripoff of Smirnoff, unfortunately. but $7 a bottle. You can't, so, we being a good American upbringing go through cases of that stuff.
All right. That's what I'm talking about.
And of course we have all the olives you want to go with it.
That's what I'm guessing. All right, Paul. Well, thank you so much for taking the time out of your obviously busy day and schedule to hang out with me and let us get to know you a little bit better.
Thank you very much, Steve. It was a pleasure, and I'm flattered that you would even ask me to be on the show.
I do believe that everybody has a story, and I'm fascinated to hear what they are, and that's kind of the whole premise behind the show.
Uh-huh.
But I had no idea that you are even more fascinating than I originally had thought. So thank you for sharing those stories, man.
Thank you. I'm humbled. Thank you very, very much.
You are awesome. Thank you so, so much. I really appreciate it.
You're very welcome, and you're welcome to come visit and stay here whenever you'd like, as long as there's room.
Well, I appreciate that offer. Thank you, sir.
You're very welcome, Steve. Thank you again.
You have a good night.
You too. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Bye.
Hey guys, this is Steve Owens from Fascination Street Podcast here with a very important message. I'm awesome. I bet you thought I was going to say something else, but nope. What's important here is that I am awesome. I started this show because I truly believe that everybody has a story, and I'm fascinated to hear those stories. In the short time I've been doing this show, I've interviewed actors, directors, writers, inventors, podcasters, musicians, pro athletes, Olympic athletes, actual war heroes, even a Bond girl and a luthier, whatever the hell that is, and of course, regular people. From people who wanted to be stars but never gave it a real try, to big company CEOs and people who got to meet their favorite president. I love getting to meet and speak with people who have a story to tell. I feel like everyone does, and it's my job to get them to tell it. You never know who my next guest will be. An Academy Award-winning actor, a platinum-selling musician, or your own mother-in-law. But one thing is for certain, you will be fascinated by their story. So come take a walk with me down Fascination Street. You can find Fascination Street Podcast on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and of course, FascinationStreetPod.com. Opening music is the song Magnolia from the 2014 album Intransigence, used with permission from Douglas Miles Clark. Closing music is Apollo from the 2001 album Into the Known by the band Sapphire. Thanks for hanging out with us and getting to know a little bit about our guest. We'll see you next time on Fascination Street.